Hey everybody, welcome to a tutorial game. I'm joined by the lovely Jordan Saya. Hi Jordan.
How are you?
I'm good, man. We're going to talk these people through a regular game of Sorcery. We're not going to be playing with the precons. We're going to show you what a full deck means and looks like. And right now you're looking at the screen that you will see when you sign into Tabletop Simulator and load up the Sorcery Contested Realms mod. When you come to this mod, you're going to click on the deck box, and then you're going to pick a deck. Now, there are a bunch of these precons here. These are the pre-constructed decks that you can buy and try out. But I'm going to show you a constructed deck that I net decked, a deck I've been having fun with. So what you do is you go to curiosa.com. And that is the main hub of all things Sorcery Contested Realms. And you will just...
.io for what it's worth.
Thank you. You're right. It does say, it says it right here. I'm looking at it. Curiosa.io. There it is, everybody. You'd go there and you would literally just copy the HTML, the URL of the deck that you want to play. You would put it in here and then you'd click import from. And look at this, our lovely little world of Sorcery. So we're going to talk high level here. I'm not sure if we'll finish the whole game. We might. We'll take you through a game. We're not going to do a whole rules teach up front, but I am going to, we're going to talk out what we're doing. We're going to give you the basics before we start. And by the end, I think you should have a basic idea where you could watch a game of Sorcery and pretty much understand what's happening. This does assume that you've probably listened to our review episode or about to listen to it. Either way, I'll give you everything you need to know. But we have reviewed Sorcery Contested Realms on the Game Brain podcast. You could watch that or listen to it now. Or you could watch this first and then listen to it so you understand more what we're talking about. So first of all, let's just start very high level. This is a 5x4 grid that you are looking at here. There are 20 squares, and the squares are numbered. So a lovely thing in this game is often you'll be asked to find a random square. You'll just roll a d20, and that will tell you what square you're looking at here. So some game things will ask you to do that. It's often just almost like in a chess match. I can say like, Pathfinder to 17, things like that. I would never say that, but I could, and that would sound like I've never played Sorcery before because I've never heard anybody do that. But you'll also notice on the side here, we have 2 health dials here. You start with 20 health in the game. Our goal is to kill each other. These are our avatars here. Lovely little avatar. Says avatar on the back there. I am playing the avatar known as the Pathfinder. Jordan is playing the avatar known as the Savior. There are, I think, like 31 avatars in the game, and each one plays very, very differently, which is one of the best parts about the game, is that you can pick an avatar and build dozens of decks just for that avatar, and then there's 30-something avatars, so there's a lot to explore. The game is over when one person's avatar is dead. How do you kill an avatar? Well, you get their health all the way to 0, and then you achieve something called Death's Door. Once you hit Death's Door, during that turn, you can no longer lose any health. But the next time your avatar takes damage, that word is important, and we'll get into that more later. The next time your avatar takes damage, they die, and the game is over. So the goal of the game is to get the other person's Pathfinder to 0 health, what we call Death's Door. Then you can't do it. You cannot win that turn. It is actually impossible to win on the same turn that you get someone to door. But on the next turn, potentially, or any turn after that, if you are able to do 1 damage, not lose life, but do at least 1 damage or more to the other person's avatar, the game instantly ends and you win. That is our goal. Outside of that, Jordan, why don't you talk about what these 2 different decks are here?
Sure. So you start the game with 2 decks, and actually, I guess we'll have a 3rd deck. We'll talk about that in a second, the collection down here. But we have an Atlas deck, and this Atlas deck is going to contain sites. These are kind of like lands that you would have in Magic. They each give you 1 mana by default, and then they also, and I hope Matt's hitting Alt now so you can kind of zoom in on this card, they also give you something called Threshold, which is in the right corner of the text box. You'll see 2 red triangles here. This would give me 2 fire threshold. And threshold is required to play your spells. It's kind of like the colors of mana. So anyways, and it also gives you 1 mana, right?
Yep.
So this deck is composed of 30 sites, and sites will also sometimes have effects on them. Like this consecrated ground, for instance, says evil has no power here, and it provides an earth threshold. So this deck that I'm playing is a fire and earth deck, so the thresholds involved will be those two colors. There are also colorless sites that give you certain abilities, like this. No, that Pilgrim Trend is an earth site, but there are some in this deck.
Yeah, you'll
I guess you
notice
could scroll
down
through for a
here.
while.
So this tracks automatically. TTS does this. Obviously, if you're playing in the real world, you have to track it yourself. This will track your mana. You get 1 mana per site that you control, and you control it because it came from your deck and you played it. And then this TTS thing will automatically track the amount of threshold that you have, which is going to be another resource that you need to have, not to spend. You never spend threshold, you just have it. But if you have the threshold necessary to play cards, you can play cards. And cards will also cost a different amount of mana. And we can show you now what some of these cards look like. So there are typically about...
So this is your spell book. These are your spells, and you have 60 cards in the deck.
Yep. And so this is... there are basically the two main types of spells in the game. And they're all called spells. There are minions and there are magic spells. And they're both spells, which is important because you are casting a minion spell or you're casting a magic spell. There are also something called auras. There's also something called artifacts. Those are also spells. But the main two things you're going to be playing are minions, which are your people that you're going to be spawning out onto your sites and then moving across the sites and attacking other people's minions, other avatars' minions, or maybe even the avatar itself, or even the sites themselves. And then if we just look at...
So zooming in...
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, please.
So zooming in on this Kettle Top Leprechaun here, you'll see it has a cost of 2 mana. It has 1 Earth Threshold requirement. So as long as you have 1 Earth Threshold, you can play this card. And then if you only had 1 and you wanted to play another Earth card, you still could. That's sort of what Matt was saying. You just have to have at least that many to play the card. You only expend the mana. It has 2 power, which is both its attack and its life in the corner there. And then it has an ability text box. So this card, when it dies, draws you a site. This is the template of a minion. Magics like Searing Truth over here, you'll see it doesn't have a health, power number in the corner. So it's just going to play for its value. It still has threshold. It has its text box. Artifacts like this Torrid Omphalos over here, they never have threshold requirements. And they'll say on them either relic or monument, basically. So this card is something that gets played into the world, and you never need a threshold to play it. And that's what makes it an artifact to a certain extent. And then finally, Jihad here is an aura. And auras get played by default to the corner of spaces. So like this aura would be influencing these 4 squares of the board.
Yeah, exactly. So, we're going to start playing, taking you turn through turn. This is a very complicated game. I would say there are certain things that are simpler about it than Magic. One of the main differences between Magic and Sorcery is that there's almost nothing that you can do when it's not your turn. Magic is all about instants and interrupts and things that I can do to affect the opponent. You're always doing something and then asking if your opponent has a reaction. I actually find that to be annoying, and there's so many timing windows and things, and you feel like every time you're trying to do something, somebody's saying no and stopping you. Sorcery, there are a couple of cards that affect things on your turn, but they're extremely rare and they're not really popular in the meta at the moment. So
I think there are only 2 out of 2,000 different cards or something. Right, there are 2 that can be played on your opponent's
I know there's Dodge Roll and something. There's something else I saw the other day too.
Valor.
Yeah, Valor, right. So it's very rare, but for the most part... and it's called Sorcery Speed, which is actually a speed in Magic as well, of when you can play cards. And it's things that you can only do on your turn. So everything in Sorcery is done on your turn. So what we're going to do is I'm going to talk you through this immensely complicated game. And we're not going to expect you to be able to sit down and play a deck at the end of this, but you will understand the basics. There are so many different abilities, and what really gets complicated about this game is the insane amount of interactions. And if you fall in love with this game as we have, you will get used to going to the wonderful curiosa.io and hitting the codex button there, which is their rules thing, and looking up rules while you play. It'll be a lot in your first 10 games, but it'll always be a little. I still, in every game, find one interaction. I go, oh, I actually don't know how this card works with that. That's just a part of learning this game. At some point, I'm sure we'll reach a point where that becomes rare, but it's an extremely complicated game. So we're not going to try to explain every crazy, weird interaction. We're just going to give you the basics of how our decks work, which are pretty good beginner decks and pretty good beginner avatars. I will give you the basics of both of our avatars before we start playing, and then we'll just get into it and talk you through our thinking on our turns. So for the most part, my Pathfinder here, every avatar is, for the most part, going to have 20 life. I think every avatar in the game right now has 20 life. You'll see in the upper left there's a little blood drop with a 20 on there. And then the upper right is how much attack they do. Most of them do 1. There are a couple that do different numbers, but for the most part, they do 1 attack. And at the bottom, they pretty much all have similar abilities except for one very different ability. Now, Pathfinder's a little different than most, but we look at Jordan's here. It says tap, play, or draw a sight. So almost every avatar, not every, but almost, not the Pathfinder, as I'll show you in a second, has the ability that says tap, play, or draw a sight. So that means you can either play a sight from your hand onto one of the 20 spaces on the board, and we'll explain how that works, or you can draw a sight, but you have to tap your avatar in order to do that. Then below that, they'll usually have their asymmetric power, and Jordan's is he can spend 1 mana to put a ward token on a minion that was summoned this turn. And he can do it as many times as he wants, as long as that minion was summoned this turn. And a ward token, as Jordan is probably spawning right now, is basically a shield. And it will block any attempt to interact with a mana, whether it's target it with a spell or damage it or do anything. It's basically a bubble, a shield. So if I try to mess with one of his minions in any way, all I'm going to do is cause the ward to disappear, and then I'd have to do it again if I want to actually affect the minion. So that's his big power. He's going to be all about shielding up. He's the savior. He's saving people's lives. He's a sweet little angel boy. And I am the Pathfinder. I play very differently, but I'm a very good beginner avatar because whereas Jordan described there are 2 different decks in this game, meaning you're going to have a handful of 2 different types of cards, I, the Pathfinder, only will ever have spells in my hand. I don't draw from my Atlas. I don't play decks from my hand to the board that are Atlas cards. Instead, I top deck my Atlas. And what I do is I move my avatar and I top deck whatever my top Atlas is, and I move on it. So the upside being that I don't ever have to draw from this deck. I just automatically, when I tap, can get the top card off this deck, but I have no control over what cards are going to be coming out of this deck. So I'm accepting a little bit of randomness. Now, obviously, I can build this Atlas deck, so I decide what's in here. But outside of that, I don't get to choose what comes out of this deck. I just say, I'm moving, and whatever appears, appears. And with that, we will start a game of sorcery, which always begins with a die roll to see who goes first. I rolled a 12. Jordan rolled an 8, and I now have the choice. Do I want to go first, or do I want to go second? I'm going to choose to go first here. I'm going to go over here and shuffle up the decks. I'm not going to do a TTS tutorial, but this is a very easy to use mod if you know how to play TTS. And the very first thing I'm going to do is I would normally draw a spell. You always get to draw either a spell or an Atlas. I can always draw a card, and I decide, do I want it to be an Atlas card or do I want it to be a spell card? But on your first turn of the game, if you go first, you do not get a draw. Very similar to lots of different games like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to Pathfind. So if we look at my thing here, it
Wait,
says,
don't you start with a hand? Do you not have a hand?
right, I apologize. I draw 3 cards. So at the beginning of a game,
And so you'll see I've drawn 3 of each deck. And before we do anything else, there's a chance to mulligan, and you can mulligan up to 3 total cards.
I was so excited to start pathfinding, Jordan.
I know you were ready to pathfind.
I was so excited to pathfind. So yes, at the beginning of the game, typically, as you'll see on Jordan's side here, you draw 3 Atlas cards and 3 spells, and then you have a total, as Jordan just said, a total of 3 potential mulligan cards, meaning you can get rid of any of those 6 cards, 3 of them in any combination you want, and put them to the bottom of your deck and redraw. I like my hand a lot here. I am not going to mulligan at all. Jordan, would you like to mulligan?
I would like to do a kind of a big mulligan because my hand is garbage for starting, I think. So I'm going to mulligan 2 sights and 1 spell.
Okay.
So these 2, and actually I can order these how I want. Not that you'll ever get to the bottom of this, but if I do, I want this one to be on top.
Yeah, an important thing to know. This is, you got to do one at a time, yeah. The important thing to know about this game is we have big decks. 60 cards here, 30 cards here. Typical game of sorcery is, I don't know, 6 to 12 turns. So at minimum, you'll draw 6 to 12 cards in a game out of, your 90 card deck here. But often you'll get maybe, there's a lot of tutor cards, a lot of cards like, that's a magic word, a lot of cards that will go through your deck and pull out specific cards you want. So you have more control than you think. But this is not a game where you will be going through either of your decks. In fact, and I've never seen it before, but it is a lost condition in the game. If you ever need to draw a card from either one of these decks and you cannot, you lose. Never seen it happen. It would have to be a weird build in order to get through that many cards, but yeah, they don't want you decking yourself, so to speak. Okay, so Jordan has mulliganed. He's got a hand of 3 spells and 3 atlases. I've got a hand of 3 spells because I'm the Pathfinder, and now I will do what Pathfinder does. So you look at my card, it says, your atlas cannot contain duplicates. That's an important thing for deck building, but not important for learning the game. I don't draw any sites during setup. As you'll see, I didn't do that. And now the only power on my Pathfinder is that I can tap and, if able, play the topmost site of my atlas to an adjacent location and move there. Now, at the beginning of the game, you must place land beneath you. I can't just be floating in space forever. I have to be standing on something. So I have no choice but to place my first land beneath me. And then after that, I have adjacent choices. So what we're going to do is we're going to pathfind. I say, I'm pathfinding. I pull this off. I flip it over. And that is going to go beneath me. I have drawn a desert bloom. It is 1 mana, like most land sites. It has a fire threshold of 1 fire, and it has a power at the bottom. It says Genesis. Genesis means this card will do something right when it's played, the moment it's played, and then never again. So right now, this could provide me either an earth, an air, or a water threshold for just this turn. So it could be nice if I had a card in my hand that needed different thresholds. But one of the good things about my beginner-friendly deck, and I tap my avatar because I've done this, one of the good things about my beginner-friendly deck is it's only fire. I only care about fire. So now I have 1 mana to spend. I have 1 fire threshold. I look at my hand. I can't afford to play anything, which is very typical. There's very few 1 power cards in this game that are worth adding to your deck. And now I tell Jordan, I am done, and I finish my turn. It is now Jordan's turn. And like we said before, at the beginning of a turn, Jordan can draw 1 card. He can draw from either deck. It's totally up to him. What would you like to do, Jordan?
I'm going to draw a spell. We should say that advanced players sometimes play with a scry rule. I don't know if you want to cover that.
Yeah, there's a seer rule that's typically, it's an official variant, but it's basically played in all competitive games where the second player is allowed to look at the top card of one of those 2 decks, Atlas or Spellbook, and decide if they want to keep it on the top or put it on the bottom. So if you start playing Sorcery, you might see other players have a tendency to do that, and that is a typical normal way to play the game with the seer rule on the first turn of the second player's turn.
So I've done that. It's just on the second player's first turn.
Yeah, talk
and
us
then I
through
will
your
play
turn.
a site.
Mm-hmm.
So I've tapped my savior to play an active volcano. This just has 2 fire threshold on it. No other special
But
abilities.
it's still important to note that is still only worth 1 mana, no matter how much threshold is
Correct.
on it. It's still he only has 1 mana to spend, even though he now has a max of 2 threshold, a 2 fire threshold.
Right. So I drew a spell. I played that, and that is the end of my turn. There's nothing more for me to do.
Cool. And you'll notice the difference between me and Jordan is that Jordan played that site from his hand, which is the typical way to play. Remember, all these avatars in the game are going to break the rules in some way, and the main way I break is that I never play sites from my hand. But vast majority of sorcery, normal sorcery, is always playing sites from your hand. Okay, so I'm going to start turn, untap. Everybody stands back up. And now it's the second turn of the game, so I do get to play normally, which is to draw a card. And remember, I can never draw from the Atlas, so good beginner avatar to learn from, because I have very few choices to make here outside of how I want to play my hand. So I only have 1 mana to spend. That's not enough for anything in my hand, so I'm going to tap, and I'm going to Pathfind again. Now, I don't have to decide where I'm placing this yet, but I do look at it. I've got a Temple of Moloch here. This is a unique site. There are 4 different types of rarity in the game. There is ordinary, and you'll see here it says an ordinary site, and Mirage Manifest. That means you can have up to 4 ordinary cards of that type in your deck. Unique, you can only have 1. Then there's exceptional, which is 3 of, and then there's elite, which is 2 of. 4 types of rarity. All it means is how many copies of a card are legally allowed to be put into a deck. So this is the only copy of Temple of Moloch. that you could have in a deck. It is a 1 fire threshold, and it has a power once on each player's turn. They could sacrifice a minion here to gain 2 mana. So yes, I could take any minion that I've played on the Temple of Moloch and kill it in order to have 2 mana to spend that turn. Could be quite powerful. Now I decide where I place this. Pathfinder must go adjacent. Adjacent in this game means orthogonal, not diagonal. So I could go here, here, or here. I'm going to go forward. It's a little bit aggressive. It's also a little bit defensive. I don't necessarily want Jordan to be able to get too close to me and surround me. But I move up here automatically. Normally you have to tap to move, but Pathfinder automatically moves to the new site they've just played. That's my big power, is able to do that. I get free movement, and I don't have to draw Atlas cards. But again, all my Atlas cards are just top decks, so I'm at the whims of fate when it comes to that. Okay, so I've tapped now in order to play my second site. I can look at my hand. I have up to 2 mana to spend, and I'm going to play a very popular card in this game called a toolbox. What a toolbox is remember when we talked about those tutor cards? This is a card that allows me to go and get a card that I may want. And you're going to notice something in here that we haven't talked about before. This is the collection. Every deck, legal deck in Sorcery, has a 30-card Atlas, a 60-card Spellbook, and a 10-card collection. And that is basically your sideboard if you're used to card games or Magic-type games. That is something that your opponent can't know what's in there. It could be spells. It could be Atlas cards. You get to have 10 secret cards. And there is this very important card that you'll find in almost every competitive deck you see in Sorcery called Toolbox that allows you to go in here and get a card. But I don't have to do that right now. I don't want to do that right now. I just have 2 mana. I'm going to spend it. And now this is a relic. A relic is an item. Think like there are swords those are called weapons, but they're all artifacts. And one type of artifact is a relic, and that's basically a piece of equipment: a sword, a hat, a shirt, a box of tools like this, a toolbox. And when it appears in the world, I must attach it either to a site. It has to go on a site. It could go down there, and nobody could pick it up, and maybe I pick it up later. But what's cool in this game is that anyone could pick this up. So if Jordan somehow gets over here, he can pick up my toolbox, and then all of a sudden he's taken my toolbox, and that would suck. So I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to attach it to my avatar. We attach things just by putting it underneath. Typically in a game, though, on TTS, people will drop things that their avatar is holding over here. But let's keep things simple. You'll see my avatar is holding the toolbox. At any time, I could sacrifice the toolbox to go into my collection and draw a card. Could be very useful later, but for now, toolbox is attached to my avatar. I have no mana to spend. I've spent all 2 of it playing this toolbox, which costs 2, and I tell Jordan, your turn.
Okay, so I'm going to draw a spell card here. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to hit turn start. So this button automatically stands up all your cards, which is nice. And then I'm just going to tap it right away to play another site, and I'm going to play a Pilgrim's Shrine right here. And so this site says ward, so it gets a ward.
Yeah, so sites can get wards, not just minions. So and we'll explain why a site would need a ward in a little bit.
It says when a minion leaves here, transfer this site's ward to it. So it's a ward, but it's also a ward for a minion in theory. Cool. Okay. And that's all I'm able to do for reasons.
Scary. All right. I stand up. You'll see my mana automatically refills. I've got my avatar holding a toolbox. You know, he's handy. He's going to maybe fix a leaky faucet or something. I don't know. But I get to draw a card. Remember, I have no choices. I can only ever draw from my spellbook because I am the Pathfinder. And now I have some lovely little cards here. So I think I could now... You don't have to play your site immediately. I could do this at any point. So Jordan at any point on his turn could play a site, and it would give him, the minute he plays it, 1 more mana to spend. So he could even play a card for 2 mana, tap to play a site, and then he has another mana. If he had a 1 mana card, he could even then play that. You can do it in any order you want. One of the lovely things about Sorcery is sort of how free it is. Like, they very rarely tell you the order you have to do things or how things work in terms of... your order of operations. It's very freeing that way. So I will now tap my avatar and pathfind. Now I could go here or I could go here. Doesn't really matter so much right now. I'm going to go this way. I flip this over. And we have a mismanaged mortuary. Now, you'll notice this is one of those types of sites that has no threshold. Now, even without a threshold, it still is going to give me 1 mana. So you'll notice I now have 3 mana down here, but there's no threshold. So my threshold remains at 2 fire. But remember, my deck is only fire. So, and if you look at my hand, I'm pretty good with just 2. I don't really need more than that right now. A couple powers here. One, this site is flooded. Let's not worry too much about that right now, but I am going to get a flooded token just to show you how we would normally play. But don't worry about what flooded means. It's irrelevant at the moment. And then it says, treat your opponent's cemetery as yours, and vice versa. What's a cemetery? It's just a discard pile. You know, in Magic, they call it graveyard. In Sorcery, they call it your cemetery. So it means that if I had a card that interacted with with my cemetery, I could also interact with Jordan's cemetery now. Not very relevant probably in this game, but just to show you all the cool kind of weird things that can happen in Sorcery. It's a weird game with funny, crazy things that happen. And now I have a card on the board that just gives me access to Jordan's cemetery. I am now going to play...
Well, don't forget to move your Pathfinder.
Oh, sorry. Of course, Jordan. Yes, my Pathfinder automatically moves to the site I just played. I have to do that. Anything else would be cheating. And now you'll notice I have 3 mana. I'm going to play a cool...
Well, wait, did you want to take the toolbox with your avatar?
Yes. This is how used I am to keeping all my relics over here. Yes, my toolbox moves. I could, if I wanted to, drop it. That's a basic action in the game, is dropping an item. I could drop it and move without it, but I'm going to keep it with me. So I have a handful of cards here. I could spend up to 3. I am going to spend 3, and we're going to play the first minion of the game, and I'm going to bring out the Red Cap Powries. They cost 3. I have 3. I'll spend that right now to show you I've spent it. They have a threshold of 2 fire. I have 2. This guy gives me 1. This guy gives me 1. This guy gives me none, but all I need is 2. He's cool. He's played. He has a power, an attack of 3, and a defense of 3. That number will tell you both. So he's a 3/3 in Magic speak. He is exceptional, meaning there can be up to 3 of him in my deck. And he is a fairy. There's some cards that might care about fairies. Anything with an uppercase letter in it means that it's a keyword. So you'll notice it says exceptional fairies. So exceptional is a keyword. Fairies is a keyword. And the rest is just flavor text. And this game is really fun with its flavor text. They don't give you a lot of it. It's usually just in the name. So this is exceptional fairies of blood-sought fury. And now we get to the powers this card has. Number 1 is charge. If you've played a card game before, you probably know what that means. It means they don't have summoning sickness. Most cards in this game come in with summoning sickness unless they have charge on them. This means that he can activate right away. He doesn't have to take a whole turn off. But there's a downside to him. If Red Cap Powries haven't attacked by the end of your turn, they die. So if I choose not to attack with him, he will die. He's bloodthirsty. He must always attack. Now, you're probably wondering, Matt, why did you bring up this minion right now? Jordan doesn't have any minions. What's he going to attack? There's no bad guys for him to fight, so he's going to die. You're wrong. This is one of the weird, cool things about Sorcery, is that lands are also things you can attack. And most importantly, when I attack a land, who loses health? The avatar. So you can think of the avatar as being directly connected to all of his lands. If I hurt his world, it hurts him. He is so in tune with his environment that to kick a rock on a mountain, it gives him a little paper cut. So think of it as any attacks done to sites or land will hurt the avatar. So one of the main ways in the game that I'm going to lower Jordan's health all the way to DD is by using my bad guys to attack his lands. And in fact, most minions in this game are going to be there to stop me from doing that. So we're not going to be attacking each other's minions just to kill the minions. We're going to be attacking them so that they don't have blockers, so that I can attack his sites and hurt him. So I will now move in with my Red Cap Powries, and I tell Jordan I am attacking the Pilgrim Shrine. Now, Pilgrim Shrine has a ward. If Jordan had a standing up attacker right now, which he doesn't, or defender, sorry. If he had a standing up defender right now, he could decide to defend. And when you defend, you can defend from one adjacent space away. So he could now move in and defend. And then I'll show you how combat works when that happens. But otherwise, we would figure out the combat. Somebody wins, somebody dies. Usually both people die. If you're going to be doing that, you wouldn't do it unless you were trading. And then, unless you really wanted to prevent the damage from happening, and then that would be the end of the attack. But he has nobody to defend it right now. But he has this lovely ward. So, like we said, wards just basically say, no, you don't do what you want to do. And then the ward goes away. So the ward will now pop. And now I'm sitting here. He has not lost any health because his ward protected him. I'm out of mana. I've done what I need to do. The red cap powers do not die because they did their thing they needed to do, which was attack something. And I passed the turn to Jordan.
Yes. And so it's my turn. I'm going to go ahead and draw a site here because I still have to do that. And I'm going to go ahead and play it. Sorry, I should hit turn start. I will play this site. It's interesting. I think I'll play it here, actually.
Consecrated ground.
So this is a consecrated ground. It's an exceptional site reflecting God's grace. And it says evil has no power here. So evil is a keyword. You can tell it's capitalized. It means anything that is undead, a demon, or a monster.
Correct.
Like this is a fairy, so it wouldn't matter, but you can imagine. So anyways, I now have 3 mana to spend. And as it so happens, I also have some red cap powers.
Get out of here.
And so they are just going to come in here and charge. And we're just going to trade Powery for Powery.
Right. So let me just tell you briefly how attacking works. It works probably exactly how you think. You look at my number, which is a 3 attack. You look at Jordan's number, which is a 3 attack, 3 power. Power means defense and attack. So we hit each other simultaneously. He does 3 to me. I do 3 to him. He dies. I die. And we both go to our graveyards. Okay. If he was a 4 and I was a 3, he would take 3 damage, have 1 left, and live. And I would only die. And then at the end of his turn, all that wounds would heal and he'd go fully back to normal health. So your damage only sustains for that turn and then it's wiped. So very similar to Magic in that sense. You're not tracking damage over time. If you survive the round, your guy goes back to full health. Okay, carry on, Jordan.
That is all. I spent all 3 of my mana on those red caps. And yeah. If I had 1 more mana with my savior ability, I could have also warded the red caps. Mm-hmm. And then when I went to kill Matt, I would have done 3 to his, and then his 3 to me would have just removed the ward.
Yes.
And so I would have lived. But that would have cost me additional mana that I did not have.
Right. And he didn't want to give me tempo and leave my red caps out here, because every turn they stay out here, they have to attack. And I just keep doing 3 damage to him. And that can really add up in time. So, often in this game, you're just trying to clear the board, as they say, in order to be able to not let it build up on you and, stay on top of it. And hopefully at some point you get advantage and can keep going. Okay, beginning of my turn, I stand up, my mana refills, I draw a card from the top of the deck. And again, I could play any of these cards. I have 3 mana, or I can Pathfind. I will choose to Pathfind again. Now, I have 2 options here. I could move up on Jordan, or I could move over here. Moving up is quite aggressive. One thing you're thinking about a lot in Sorcery is how many sites do I want to have connected to my opponent? Because remember, every site that I have connected to him is something he has an opportunity to come into an attack on his turn. So the more sites that I open up to him, the more sort of places I have to worry about defending, the more places he's able to come in and start attacking me. So I could move up here and be very aggressive. It gives me more places to attack him from, which if my deck happens to be sort of an aggro deck, so I may like that. But I also may say, I don't know if I want to have so many places I need to defend either. In this case, I am actually going to show you what it looks like to play very aggressively. So I am going to move up here. Maybe it's a mistake. We'll see. But I've played the Core Crematory. This is a 1 mana, 1 fire threshold, and it has a little power on the bottom here that says, if I have 4 threshold, this is not a power, it just says, if I have 4 fire threshold, this thing comes online next to it. And that thing is, anytime a card would be placed in a cemetery, banish it instead. I do not have 4, I only have 3, but the next time I have 4 for the rest of the game, cards will not go to the cemetery. They will be banished. So if I was playing a character, or Jordan had a character that cared a lot about digging through the cemetery, this would be a devastating card for them, because from now on, for both of us, basically nothing's getting added to the cemetery. But that doesn't happen right now. I do have 4 mana to spend. You can see my lovely little hand here. And I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to play the Colicky Dragonet. It's one of my favorite cards in the game. It costs 3, needing 2 fire threshold. I have all of those things, so I'll show you. I spend 3 mana. I have 1 left. And then it has a power here. At the end of your turn, Colicky Dragonet, shoot a projectile. It deals 1 damage. So what's a projectile? It's sort of what you think. At the end of the turn, it's going to shoot a fireball in the direction I choose, any cardinal direction, orthogonal direction, not diagonal. And the first time it hits something, it hits it. Hits an enemy. So it would, at the end of the turn, I'm just going to actually end the turn now. So I would say end the turn. This thing now happens at the end of your turn. Colicky Dragonet, shoot a projectile. It flies here. It flies over the site. Projectiles do not hit land. And it hits the first thing it can, which is Jordan's Savior. And Jordan takes the first damage of the game. And he goes down to 19 health. Yes, these Colicky Dragons will just sit here, and every turn they will cough fireballs at Jordan until he figures out how to stop them. But it is now Jordan's turn.
Yes, indeed. I'm looking at these guys. Okay.
Don't look at them. Leave them alone.
I wanted to look at them for a second.
They're my children.
I hope that's
They're
okay.
my children.
All right, so I'm going to draw... I think I'm going to draw a site here, which is interesting. Okay. And right. Okay. And so for my site placement, I could go here to stop Matt from coming in. I could go here. This is kind of like the most defensive position. Or I could go here and kind of create a mirror between our 2 boards. But I think if I go here, it's a lot more annoying for Matt. I'm not sure that's true, but that's what I'm going to do anyway. So we will go ahead and do it. And I'm going to play a Red Desert here. And so Red Desert reads, Genesis, deal 1 damage to each minion atop target nearby site. This is an avatar. It is a unit, but it is not a minion. So it will not take any damage from this. So that Genesis effect will do effectively nothing. And then I have 4 mana to spend, and I'm going to play another very popular card in this game. Although we'll see if this ends up being a terrible decision. I already feel like it is. I'm going to play a Gargantula right here.
No.
And so that costs 4, so I don't get to put a ward on it, which is why I'm questioning this choice.
So
but it does have a cool Genesis ability.
Jordan, I will stop you here. This is a good opportunity to show you a typical mistake that even I and Jordan still make to this day. Jordan does not have the necessary threshold. Wait, I want to show people why, though. Hold on, bring that card back.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So you'll notice this card costs 4 mana. That's fine. Jordan's got 4 mana. But he only has 3 Earth threshold. You'll notice right here. And this card requires 3. And so it's an important thing to always check your threshold because you may have the mana, but you may not have the right sites yet.
It's so easy to make that mistake. Okay, so I'm going to put that back into my hand. And I'm also going to take back the site that I played because I'm going to have to play a different turn here than that.
This is what we call a classic Jordan backsies.
No, it's not. No, and actually, it's interesting. The rules say in this game, it's kind of interesting. Backsies are actually allowed until new information is revealed, either by drawing a card or rolling a die. So, or
mainly
declaring
because we're people who play this game are nice people and not assholes. So it's like, yeah, you know.
No, it's actually in the rules though. So
yeah,
it's
no,
not
I agree.
Just,
I agree.
like,
but it is also
a top-down decision.
It is also in the spirit of the game, which is very much a game of just have fun and make a great game happen. All right, so
that is true.
What's
so
the Forlorn Keep?
Is what I've done here. The Forlorn Keep says if you have at least 2 Earth Threshold, which I do, I have 3 now. I can cast a Penitent Knight from my collection, which is this deck over here, to this site. So I've done that. The Penitent Knight is a 3/3. So I paid the 3 mana. That was 3 of my 4.
Yeah, you don't get to play things from your collection for free. You still have to pay for them.
Well, cast means that you have to pay. Summon or something means that it's free. But in any event, this card makes you pay. So I have 1 left for this ward, using my Savior's ability. And so this Penitent Knight is warded.
And you'll notice on Jordan's Savior power here, it says tap, player, draw a site, which he hasn't done yet because he's been he has been doing. He's been playing to.
No, I did. I played the
tapping to play a site. But where it says spend $1, ward a minion, it doesn't say tap, so you don't have to tap him. He can do that even when tapped. So important to always take this game very literally with the words that they choose.
Yeah, the only restriction on this card is ward a minion that was summoned this turn. And I honestly, I've never done this before, but I think you can play a minion, ward it. If that minion has charge, swing with it. The charge, like kill the, like remove the ward
Mm-hmm.
from the thing you attacked against, and then pay one more to ward it again because that
You
minion was summoned
you
this turn.
100% can do that. And also, if it was
I,
there are a couple characters in the game that when they kill something, they stand back up. You could just keep warding it forever if you wanted to, if you had the mana for it.
that's honestly, I should try and build that deck.
Yeah.
I don't know what it would be. Anyway, that's my turn for now.
And now you can't hit me with your Penitent Knight or do anything with it because the same reason I didn't attack you with my Colicky Dragonette is because all minions have summoning sickness unless they have charge in this game.
Right.
Okay. Jordan's turn is done. I stand up. I draw one spell. And I look at my hand. I'm going to Pathfind. I'm going to go over here, which is the only place I could legally go now because I have to move adjacent. And I can't ever build a site where there already is a site. So these are now blocked and will remain sites. But there are ways to destroy sites, but not you won't see them in these decks. And now I must move the Pathfinder over here. I tap to do my Pathfinder ability. We have Smokestacks of Gnak. It's 1 mana, 1 red fire threshold, and it says other nearby sites lose their abilities. So every site nearby now loses ability. Now, nearby is a new word. What's nearby? Nearby means all spaces surrounding it, even diagonals. So nearby includes diagonals. So Genesis sites don't really matter, but you'll notice this core crematory now, which now is online because I have 4 fire threshold, and cards would normally be placed in the cemetery would be banished because of this card. The Smokes of Gnak just turned it off. I just turned off my own site, so that's never going to happen. That site is blank now, other than the threshold and the mana. The power on it is blank. You're now seeing one of the downsides of Pathfinder is that I have no control over the order these come out, and I've just blanked my own site. That maybe if I had been playing somebody that really cared about the cemetery, I'd be quite sad right now because now they can do all their shenanigans. So I have 5 mana because I have 5 sites. I have this nice little Z shape vibe going on here. And I'm going to play some things. So first thing I'm going to play is this lovely little man here. And by the way, when you summon when you cast a minion spell from your hand, you can cast it to any site that you control. It doesn't have to be near your avatar. It doesn't have to be where your avatar is. I can cast it anywhere. Unless it specifically says where it must be cast, you can cast it anywhere you control. I cannot cast it to Jordan's sites, though, because I don't control those. So it has to be where I am. And I decide anywhere I want to place it. I'm going to place it here because the Violimp is a 2-cost, 2 strength. I'm going to spend 2 mana right now. And when he comes in, Genesis, which means happens when he's played, I can deal 2 damage to a target adjacent unit. Boom, I hit the Penitent Knight for 2. He doesn't die, though, but he loses his ward, which is nice for me. And then I have spent 2. I have 3 left. For my last trick, I am going to play the... yes. Do I want to? I'm thinking, actually. That's interesting. Oh, sorry. I forgot to bring my toolbox with me. I will...
That toolbox is an example of a take back after new information.
Absolutely. Big time. That would get me disqualified. Absolutely.
I'm just kidding.
Ooh, I don't like your little 3-cost guys. My deck is all about 2-cost guys, or 2-power guys, and you have all these 3-power guys, and that annoys me. I sure wish I could get my Colikies into a better position. I'm not
I mean,
gonna...
you could just move them.
I could, Jordan. I could do that. You know what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to play a Centerfee instead. So Centerfee is a 2/2, 2 cost, 2 strength, 2 power. And the Genesis is target adjacent site is silenced and provides no threshold while Centerfee is in the realm. So I'm going to choose this one here. Now, the main important reason I did that is because I just made Jordan lose a threshold. He only has 2 now. And I know because of Baxi Saya that he has a Gargantua in his hand that's going to require quite a bit of Earth threshold. So I have silenced this now. So he only
Wow.
has 2. Unless he figures out how to kill Centerfee, then he'll get that back. It does not affect his mana. That would be busted. But it does affect the power on here. So that's blank now. And it affects his threshold. So the turn ends. I'm not going to do anything else, but my Colicky Dragons at the end of the turn are going to fire a projectile and hit the Savior for 1. And I end my
You
turn.
you don't want to move and attack with these guys. It sounds because you could.
I could. I'm going to choose not to for now.
Choosing not to. All right.
Yes.
So I'm going to draw a site, hoping basically for an Earth threshold because Matt silenced my my good one. So what do I want to do here? Well, okay. Let turn start. I will tap and I will play a. Wow. It's a little annoying, but I will play a Forlorn Keep up here, I think. And I will go ahead. Actually, you know what? Well, I could play it here instead. Or I could play. Oh, you know what? I'll play it here. This is fine. And then I will use that. It's the same thing I played before. So I'm going to go ahead and summon a Penitent Knight. And I will. Do I want to spend the extra mana to ward it? Well, I don't have to decide right now. I do have 2 mana left. I've spent 3. Whoops, spent 3. Okay, and then for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing with my Penitent Knight up into your Imp.
Mm-hmm.
And this is 3 against 2.
Mm-hmm.
So my Knight will live and your Imp will die.
Wow.
And then with my 2 mana left, there's a few different things I could do. But you know what? I'm just going to pay for the ward. My deck is about wards. We might as well ward things. And I think that's going to be it for me.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stand up. I'm going to draw my 1 spell. And yes, excellent. All right, I'm going to Pathfind. So I'm going to go top deck. Now, again, there's only one place I could possibly play it, which is here, because it has to be adjacent. And I move, my Pathfinder has no choice but to move on to that location. This is an Oasis. It is thank you, Jordan. It is a water and fire. Now, if I had some water cards in my deck, that might be relevant. Spoiler alert, I don't. But, you know, one thing about Pathfinder is that my deck has to have 30 cards and none of them can be duplicates. So this game has only been around for a few years. There's only so many fire sites. So, you know, I have to start dipping into fire sites that have other manas or other thresholds in them too. So it's also just a lovely bit of art. It looks so relaxing. My Pathfinder's here with this. Very cool. I'm going to go ahead and look at my collection here because I might play something from my collection now to sort of deal with all of these Penitent Knights that are cruising around here because I'm not digging them. So let's see. I'm showing the people watching some of the things in my deck that can do cool things, and I'm deciding what I want to do. And I think I am going to probably bring out this card here. So I have to sacrifice my toolbox. That's going to go over here. And now I play Gift of the Serpent for 2 mana. And I'm going to put it on these Colicky guys right here, Colicky Dragonettes. And what this means is they now have lethal for the rest of the turn, which means any damage they do will be enough to kill anything. So they have poison, basically, if you've played Hearthstone or other games like that. But one of the nice things is I also get to draw a spell. Okay, so remember, these guys have it. This would typically go in my discard, but I'll just show you so you can remember. I'm going to do a few things here first, though. First, I'm going to move Centerfee up, and I'm going to attack the Pilgrim Shrine for 2 power. Yes. Then I'm going to bring the Colicky Dragons up and also attack the site for 3 power. So Jordan's down to 14 health. And now you'll see why I played lethal here, because at the end of the turn, I choose the direction this projectile goes. And this has made all damage I do lethal this round. So when this fires this projectile, which only does 1 damage, nowhere near enough to kill this 3 power guy, because it's lethal, he dies from a little fireball cough. Ha ha ha. And now I put the Gift of the Serpent in the trash. And I will end my turn.
Okay, so I'm going to draw a spell here to start my turn. We're going to read this spell. That is kind of fun.
I think, Jordan, two things. I have to go home in a minute to do dinner with the fam, but I think let's do each one more turn, and I think people will have pretty much gotten the gist of it at this point. And then if they want to, they can watch further games that Jordan and I will probably record and put up. But I think this is a pretty good, let's do like one more turn if you have anything crazy in your hand you want to show. But I think people get it. We're gonna keep doing this, get each other's health down to 0, which is called Death's Door, and then try to do one more damage to them. Now, I will just say quickly, the important thing to note here is that one more damage cannot be done to a site. You cannot win the game ever by attacking an avatar's site. You lose life by doing that, but do not damage the avatar. So it's one of the awesome things about this game, to actually win the game after you get somebody at Death's Door, you have to kind of get up in their face and hit them. And often the avatars will just run away, and then you have to chase them down or throw a projectile or do a ranged attack or do something to try to get that one last little bit of damage to them to kill them. But you can't do it by attacking sites. So we care a lot about attacking sites for the beginning of the game, or at least, up until Death's Door. And then after that, attacking sites doesn't do nothing. All right, Jordan, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, sure. We'll just not think too much. So I'll play this here. I will deal 1 damage to each of these guys with my Red Desert.
Now, we do track that for the turn. They will heal up at the end of the turn and go back to full health. But yes, if he finds a way to do 2 more damage to these guys, they would die this turn. Right.
I'm probably not going to get to do that. I think my best move, well, I guess, I don't know. Should I just do my coolest move?
Yeah, do your coolest
Even though it's
move.
far from my best. Just to show the possibility space here, I am going to play Gargantula now that I have the 3 threshold. And I think I'll put it here.
Ooh.
And actually, no, I'll put it here. That makes a lot more sense. And I can drag an adjacent minion here, disabling it in a cocoon until a unit at its location taps to free it.
Oof.
So I'm going to take your Colikies and move them here, and they are in a cocoon.
A proverbial cocoon.
Yeah. But they are disabled, so there's no cocoon token or anything.
And disabled means they're basically a blank piece of paper. They have nothing written on them.
Right.
They have no power. They have no abilities. They have nothing. Even the art is gone. It's not, but in your head it is. They will not shoot projectiles anymore. They are totally disabled. And the awesome thing about Gargantua is that the only way I could free it is by moving a minion into the same space and tapping, meaning turning my card 90 degrees, just to take the sort of the new action of free my Colicky Dragon. So cool little stories that get created in a game like this.
Right. And I've warded my Gargantula as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and... well, it's kind of interesting, I guess. Yeah, whatever. So I'll just swing with my Penitent Knight up here for 3. Oops, and he'll take his ward with him. So that's 3 to your health there. And I have 1 mana left because I spent 1 on that ward. That's not enough to play anything, so I'm done for the turn.
Okay, we'll make this last turn. I'll show you guys one more cool little thing. Stand up, draw my card. You kind of start to see the flow of the game. I will go ahead and Pathfind one more time. I have a total of 7 mana now. In a typical game, you're looking to get typically between 6 and 8 mana in a game at that point. Depends who you're playing. Pathfinder's whole thing is potentially getting up to 10 or 11 or 12 even, because remember, I don't have to take whole turns drawing cards from this deck. Okay, I have 7 mana. I'm going to do a couple things here. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to swing at Gargantua. You're probably thinking, Matt, that's so stupid. Gargantua.
This is a bad example because
evil has no power here. A great example.
I should actually have just played it like the monster thing. So, this is a beast. Oh, this is a beast.
No, he's a fairy.
Monster,
he's
so
a fairy.
Right.
Yeah, he's a fairy.
And he's a fairy, and this is a and this is a beast. Okay, so
we're fine. So I'm going to attack Gargantua. He's a 4 for warded. I'm a 2/2. I die. The ward goes away, which is nice. But now I'm going to play a very powerful spell, which is Betrayal. Now, this is a magic spell, not a minion spell. And Betrayal says gain control of target enemy minion this turn and untap it. Now, you're probably wondering, who is casting these spells? Well, it's my avatar right here. But he's pretty. I want to cast it on Gargantua and can take control of Gargantula. Gargantula switches teams and becomes mine. But my guy's so far away, it doesn't matter. If it doesn't tell you the distance, often it'll say gain control of an adjacent or a nearby. But this just says gain control of target enemy. So all I have to do is just point to somebody and I have them. So this will cost me 5 mana. I say, I choose Gargantula. And now Gargantula is mine. And he even untaps. And now I can take Gargantula and attack his own site with him for 4 damage. Oh my god, so satisfying. Now be afraid of my Gargantula. Now, just because I took control of Gargantula, the Genesis doesn't happen again. As nice as that would be. The Genesis only happens when it's played for the first time. And then I have 2 mana left. I'll just come out here.
And then just to say, this is one of those things where you have to remember, like, Betrayal only lasts this turn. So on my turn, Gargantula will be mine again.
Right.
It still goes to the discard pile. You don't, like, attach it or anything.
Yep, exactly. And then I'll just play this little Wild Fanatic. He's a 2/2. He's got charge. He's going to come in here, swing, get Jordan down to 7. And that's what we're going to show you for now. If we keep doing this, I'd eventually get Jordan to DD. And then again, I must kill Jordan. A couple ways I can do it: by actually getting up next to his avatar and swinging at him. Doesn't matter how much damage I do. It only takes 1 point of damage to actually win the game. Or by playing some sort of a spell that does damage, like Flame Strike. I could play that if I was standing up to even 2 spaces away from him and shoot a Flame Strike at him and hit him with that. That's fine. The only thing I can't do to kill him is I cannot use a minion and attack one of his sites. That will not hurt him once he's at Death's Door. And with that, you're definitely have enough here to play the pre-con decks. And from that, you could just start going through the rules, going through the codex, learning all the abilities and keywords. But that's basically a game of sorcery. Jordan, thank you for being my crash test dummy on this. I appreciate it. And the word dummy was chosen very deliberately.
You're welcome.
Now I feel bad. I always feel bad when I insult you in a joking
Matt,
way.
it was an honor to be with you. It was
Jordan.
just the greatest pleasure of my life.
Oh my
and,
God.
you
Now
know, I'm just so thankful to be considered for this.
So wonderful. All right. Well, if you haven't listened to our Sorcery review on the Game Brain podcast, go ahead and do that now. And then, I imagine Jordan and I are going to be recording more games now that we've gotten this little tutorial up. Until then, thank you so much, Jordan. And we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.